Yeah, so I mean, if you're good, let's go for it in case we
Okay.
capture any gold here.
Oh, all
So
right,
yeah,
sure.
Chris
Sweet.
Pureka, Dirt from the Road podcast. Good to see you. Yeah, so I know you through one of my best friends, Ryan Traster, who lives in the Joshua Tree Desert, and he was I think he was on the same record label as like my first record label, and so my buddy Johnny P was like, you gotta meet Traster. You're going to Joshua Tree, you gotta meet this guy. He's fun, he's hilarious, his record rules. And then we sat on the porch and drank coffee in like 107-degree desert heat, and some you meet a lot of people in music, and it's cool, and we're lucky to be able to do that. But when I met Treister, I was just like, this guy is my speed, and it was just Vibe City, likes all the same like bands. We had all the same
Yeah.
records growing up, a lot of jangly guitar pop. I don't meet a ton of people who love REM, so when I do, I'm like, all
What?
right. Yeah, I'm hanging out in the wrong
What?
scene.
Yeah, I don't know. That's yeah. No, REM is the best.
What were you big in the in that jangle pop world when growing up?
I
What?
mean, Tracer is just like an encyclopedia, so I don't even like try to compete or anything.
Yeah, yeah,
But I was like, I grew up in like a suburb where there was like it was pretty like it was like a kind of culture vacuum. So
yeah.
like I was only getting like top 40 and stuff. So but like REM was like gold in the
Yeah.
top 40. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. But no, I'm not like I don't like go deep into like that whole like all the indie bands that were influencing REM at the time. I don't know about that
Right.
stuff, but I was a fan.
So you grew up in a pretty small town, and it was kind of hard to find like kind of culture stuff, or what?
Yeah, it was like just this conservative small town. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, and it's like only like an hour and change from New York City. So like if you have access to the city, then there's obviously a lot to do, a lot of culture there, a lot of music, but and when you're a kid, you don't go into the city. So yeah, there was no venues in my town. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like, yeah, music was pretty much just listening to the radio, and,
Sure.
this is old. I'm old.
That was a decent time. Oh, and Chris, you don't know, is there a fan going in the background or anything? I just want to make sure there's no, good.
There's not,
Okay,
do you hear a
perfect.
fan?
No worries. I'm just making sure. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so you've been road dogging it a long time. I've actually, I've seen
Yeah.
your posters for the last 10 years because we're kind of on the similar circuit perhaps.
Cool.
But how is morale? I like to talk to, kind of lifers, road dogs, and like get their advice.
Lifers.
Yeah, get your advice on how to not lose my
Yeah.
mind out there. How do you do
Yeah.
it? How do you keep it together? It's a weird, lonely life.
Yeah, so I'm coming up on 22 years of touring. I did my first tour in 2001. Um, and I'm about to head out on another tour, so it's been full of shows. I think a few years back I definitely broke 1,000 shows.
Yeah,
And um yeah, I mean it is its own kind of thing and it's definitely not for everybody. And yeah, you got to take breaks. You can't just like do it all the time. And I'm sure you've talked to a million people about all the things, but um I mean, for me also, like I don't have, I basically am my own label, so I don't, and I have had a manager for most of my career, but right now I don't. So like I'm just wearing a lot of hats, and so for me, like what it means to kind of like not lose my mind is to be like really prepared, is to do a lot of work before the tour, to have like
sure.
everything like just like organized and like the calendar all set to go and the lodging all booked and all that because if you're out there trying to do it, it's just like too much.
Did you always have a knack for kind of the business side of things? Was that of interest to you when you first started?
I don't think I've ever had a knack for the business side of things, but
I mean,
I
compared to most songwriters, I would say you do.
well, I guess I'm clarifying between like I think I'm good at the like organizational kind of admin parts. I think
Yeah,
that that's something that I excel at, but I don't like actually the promotion part and like the business, like let's make lots of money and like market our songs kind of thing has never been like my strongest thing. So, but I do think like I do have the other part pretty dialed where I spend, yeah, I like, I get organized and I kind of like think about a lot of different things that I think a lot of people don't think about. I kind of like go the extra mile with things. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, even just hotel booking, I'll spend 2 hours booking a hotel like for one show sometimes because I have a dog. I
Hmm.
have three people in my band, so I'm looking for three beds. Like I want like something that's going to be near the venue, but like not like we're not driving out of our way the next day. Like all the things, like
Sure.
it's a lot and like trying to figure out, yeah, sometimes I'm spending like so much time like just booking a hotel, but that will like make our experience like so much better. You know, everyone has their own bed, everything's like dialed in.
It's incredibly huge. Yeah, nothing I mean, a good hotel really boosts morale. You know, when you get
Yeah.
up and it's clean, it's just like,
Oh, man.
I mean, think about how much just the dirty venues, like, and they're fun, like the crusty, dirty rock clubs, they're fun, they're great, I love them, but they really zap your energy. What is that? It's like, it's just uncomfortable. You're just kind of on nasty couches and the green room's skunky. You know how it goes, but
Yeah, it's like your personal space is kind of being violated all the time.
mm,
So then you're like, yeah, you're seeking out like cleanliness and like just a place to like refresh yourself. I think that's really true. Like I recently did it. I've been doing a bunch of shows opening up for Damien Jurado and mostly I bring my dog out and so I'm staying. That's a whole other thing that I don't need to get into really, but I tour with a Chihuahua, so I
well, I
have
do
to
want to
get pet.
ask you about that because I want to get a dog on tour, and everyone tells me they're like, "Do not do it, Newski," and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
listening to you. I'm going to do it. I'm a lonely man.
I have a lot to say about it, and I think I'm very pro, but I think you need to get a dog that's like you can take on the plane, like that's little, you know, like touring with a big dog is like, that's just like not a thing
Did
that,
you get him or her service dogged? Service dog?
well, for a long time there was the emotional support animal program, but that was basically canceled by like TSA like
By
a
the
few years
peacock
back.
lady, the lady who brought the peacock? Didn't she ruin it for everyone?
Yeah, there was a lot of abuse of the policies. Yeah, that was a bummer. And that was honestly like that's been hard because it's really expensive now to fly with the dog. I'm about to bring her to New York City, and it's like $100 each way.
Oh shit, yeah.
And it's, you know, that adds up pretty quick. Like, I mean, if I'm flying to like LA or something, it's still $100 each way. So her flight is like almost as much as my flight.
Hmm.
Which is just like it's a little like ridiculous because it's not like you don't even get an extra bag. Like your dog counts as one of your carry-ons. So I mean, they're just milking it, you know. But
Of course. But I mean, I guess how much is your mental health worth? You know, I mean, that must, what is it? Does it boost your mentals by like 15%, 4%, 9%? Give me an arbitrary number.
50 maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, but I
That's
mean
worth
like
the bread.
the thing is that like yeah, I mean I love there's like a lot of bonuses and benefits to having her out and also it is like it actually does add to my workload and my stress load a little bit. So you have to kind of find a balance because yeah, I mean like because her needs are a priority and so you know, like even just something as basic as like making sure that she gets a walk before the show is like a whole extra
Hmm.
25 minutes that like you don't really have on tour. So it's like, yeah, it's tricky.
Can you give the dog to like fans to like look after while you like do stuff? Is that something that could be
I've never
big?
done that.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, I don't know. She's like my dog is great. She's usually hanging out in the green room during the show. And I'll bring her out to like the merch table sometimes after and she'll like hang out. She's very friendly, likes to meet people and stuff. But
And venues are mostly pretty cool with it.
I would say honestly the venues have been really awesome about it.
Nice.
Like there's only been like two or three venues like in all of 10 years that like were kind of just like kind of nasty about it and like no, we don't want dogs and don't bring your dog. It's been pretty great. And I mean I think because she's so little, like they're like less stressed out about it and like she can go in her like she has a little backpack. So she can hang out in her backpack and stuff when there's like not the best green room situation. But it's stressful for me. Like wherever she's gonna be has to be temperature controlled. I can't like leave her in the car. Like this tour I just did with Gerardo in June, like there were temperatures up to like 115 degrees, and it's like
Or
you can't run in for like a coffee and like leave
yeah.
your dog in the car. So it's a lot to think about, and it's a lot if you're touring solo, I think it's pretty hard, but I mean I've made it work. But it's like way better if you've got other people that can like help out.
What was the thing for you early on, 2001, early 2000s, where you like got a taste of like a little bit of glory, where you're like, I'm gonna do this as my job. Like this is all I want to do.
Well, um I was really lucky. Like the first tour that I went on was this like kind of epic like national tour opening for this friend of mine, and it was all pretty grassroots DIY stuff, but like
Which band was
we
headlining?
it was a poet, a spoken word
Oh,
poet named Alex
interesting.
Olson,
Cool.
and I was like I had collaborated with her, and like so I played on some of her poems, and then I opened the shows, and so it was just like this very like I kind of got thrown in the deep end of that whole experience, and I made like a little like 7 song like EP on like an 8 track and just sold that at shows, and so I kind of like had a little smattering of fans like all over the country just from that like right away. So
And
it
that's
was
the
like a little,
CD era, right? So you're
oh
selling a
yeah.
shitload of CDs. Like how many
It
CDs are
was
you selling a night on average?
back then.
Yeah,
Oh,
2001.
I mean, back on the first tour, I don't, not that many. I mean, I was opening, I don't know, not a ton, but I mean, eventually I would sell a lot of CDs. Like there was the heyday of CDs, and it's
Yeah.
obviously past. But yeah, I was like, I mean, I was burning those things myself. That was like, everything was very DIY grassroots. But it would be like it was 5 years from then until I actually like was doing music full time. I had a day job at a university for 5 years working in a microbiology lab. My degree was in biology, so I kind of was doing that and then doing music um, on the weekends and stuff. And then I started like getting more opportunities, and so I was like, oh, like I'm kind of like turning down gigs now because I can't get off work or whatever. So I ended up going part-time, and then I ended up going like quitting my day job in 2006. So music has been like full-time for me since then.
And the biology degree, was that something you were relieved to get out of?
No,
You
actually,
liked
I
it?
loved it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it a lot, but I was kind of like the music thing really felt more like age dependent. I was like, if I'm gonna do music, I gotta do it now in my 20s.
Right.
And I was like, biology, like if I like decide I want to do that again, I could do that later. So that was kind of my thinking around it. And also just like, I mean, getting to like share your art with people for a living is like gold. Like you're
It's
kind
what
of
an
like you're
honor.
connecting with people in like such a deep way,
Mm.
and it's just a really different kind of experience and of like life path, and I think like it's really rewarding. It's much more it's rewarding in a different way. The biology stuff was rewarding and I liked it intellectually, but this is like more of like a spiritual path.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to for anyone to I mean, just paying for art in general in the modern era when everything is free is like what an honor. And then to be able to do it for a living is just on another level. So forgive my verbiage if I'm off here, but you were openly gay when you started touring, yeah?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what were the kind of struggles with that early on? Or
Yeah, I mean, so like that first tour I did with Alex Olson, I mean, she's like a radical, like feminist lesbian poet. So it was like kind of like her whole audience was a bunch of queers, a bunch of like activists, So it kind of like shuttled me like straight into that scene. And there was obviously a lot of like kind of in the 90s, there was kind of the like lesbian folk singer thing. And that was like uh, a pigeonhole that was easy to kind of like drop into. And I was really like honestly trying to avoid that for a long time. Like it felt like a box that you would get trapped in and kind of like not really be able to grow out of. And that still sort of happened for me regardless. And um, so that I felt like that was difficult. But there was also a lot of opportunities that came through the queer community, and the queer community has obviously like been like my support for most of my career. So it's kind of like it goes both ways, I think. And but I do think, I mean, I have had like literally had people kind of like say that I'm like a niche artist, and like, like submit for opportunities, and we've been turned down basically for people being kind of like, no, you're like that thing. And
Uh,
that sucks. That's hard. But I think honestly, more than my being like queer, like I think that my gender presentation has been like more of an obstacle. I don't think that I mean, there's so much optics involved in the entertainment industry and what we do, and there's so much like identity stuff as well. And I think that like I'm just kind of a songwriter, writing songs, doing the thing that I do, and I don't write. I write about my experience, but I don't write explicitly queer music or like anything that would only that would only relate to queer people. Um, but yeah, but I feel like I've still sort of like there haven't been a lot of other people of my like gender presentation that have kind of like paved the way. Like I don't know, even today, like there's not a lot of like genderqueer or non-binary presenting like entertainers. Like, it's obviously it's changing now, but it's like it's been whatever 22 years. And for the first half of my career, I don't think that like I was like, where do I fit in? And I don't think that there wasn't like, like a welcome mat like put out for me like in that way. I think it was a lot harder for me.
sure. What about like shows just along the way, early shows, modern shows that just stand out in your mind, or road experiences that stand out as being like particularly like soul crushing or forks in the road where you're like, oh, maybe I should do microbiology again.
Mm. I mean, there's like there's like that happens, it happens. And I don't have like a great story about that. I think that that's just kind of like a little bit of like a daily grind kind of part of it, to be honest. Like, but um I do think, yeah, I mean, I don't have like a specific example, but there's like the whole like we drove 10 hours to play that show. Like I actually did a show with Tracer like I don't even remember, but it was in Wenatchee with Washington, and it was like everything that could go wrong like went wrong. Like it was just like that day. And there was like I think there were 4 or 5 of us in the car and the dog, and like it was just like we were late. The dog like pooped in the car. Like there was just like a horrible like sound check. Like nobody came to the show, and we drove like all the way like 6 hours for this one show, and then we drove all the way back. I mean, it was bad. And like there's always those like those, those shows where you're driving like whatever 10 hours to play to like 10 people,
Of
and
course.
that's still the thing. It still happens, and it is hard, but like I don't know, you still like have a good time. And like people are like if there's 3 people there, like they're stoked, those three
Yeah.
people are super stoked. And I don't know, yeah. So I mean, I've definitely had like my share of like crazy travel stories, and like different like versions of like cars breaking down, flights getting canceled. I definitely like missed a flight one time like I got to the airport, and it was like New York, and it was just like normal, horrible New York traffic. And I got there like 50 minutes before my flight, and they wouldn't let me check a bag. And so I was like, all my gear is like, I have a guitar, I have a gear. Like, I was like, so I was like, I can't take this plane. They like wouldn't let me check my bag. So I literally had to drive back to Connecticut. As so staying at my parents, I had to book another flight out of Boston the next day. I had to like drive all night, get on a flight to Boston. This was all to open this one show for the Cowboy Junkies in Denver, which was like super awesome show, you know?
Hmm.
But that experience was like sucked.
Oh, yeah,
It was probably like a $1,200 travel
sure.
experience for like, you know, one flight to Denver.
I mean, even if the
Yeah.
gear check-in goes smoothly and everything, you're still, waking up at 4 a.m., driving to the
Yeah.
airport, flying to Denver,
Oh
get the
man.
rental car,
Oof.
fill it with gas. Remember to fill it up with gas on the way out
Yeah,
so
no.
the Enterprise doesn't ding you.
Oh
Would
God.
you say you're like addicted to the grind at this point?
No, I don't think I would describe myself like that. I think that it's really challenging for me. I'm a really sensitive person and like it's really there's a lot of overwhelm that happens on the road. Like there's just so much going on all the time and like it's really easy to get really exhausted. It's really easy to be like not sleep well and like just be like I don't think that I think it's really hard what we do and I like feel as I get older, I feel the need to take a lot more breaks and like I would honestly prefer to tour less than I do, but like that's how I make my living. And so it's kind of like I'm always trying to like hone it in and like try to find a
Yeah.
balance. But
It's hard to say no to stuff, especially when opportunities are kind of coming to you. What do you do for leisure? Like, how do you get back to Zen, back to neutral when you're home?
I'm really like gardening a lot, so that's like a really like meditative um experience for me and like a way to connect with the earth and everything and Um, just like hanging out with my dog and like working on writing. Those are like things that I do when I'm home. Like just kind of having quiet time and like slow time because that's just like not what it's like when the travel's on, you know. I
Yeah,
try
you
to
have a
slow down like a lot.
sure. I remember Traster saying you did it was like a 3 month plus tour across the whole of Europe. So where do you go? I mean, there's the usual spots. There's the Germany, the Austria, Switzerland, Belgium, Holland. But once you get into month 2 and 3, like you must be covering the whole continent. Like, where are you going? How far east are you going? How far
No,
north?
I think that
No?
tour was only 6 weeks.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think it was a 6 weeker, which was really, it
That's
felt
long.
really long.
That's long.
Yeah. And we did, I mean, and I don't even remember which one specifically, but um I've done tours where it's like, yeah, France, Italy, Netherlands, Belgium, lots of stuff in Germany, a couple things in Switzerland, and then you hop over to like the UK. And so if you're doing like England and Scotland and stuff,
Sure.
then it's like it's a lot. There's a lot there. So yeah, and that's like it's tricky because once you're over there, you know, those plane tickets are really
Mm,
expensive. So you want to book as many shows kind of as you can to try to like make some money before you're coming home because it's like whatever, $1,200 just to get there or whatever. So for per person. So you got to like make it up somehow. So yeah, I used to kind of book whatever I could book. I haven't been back in a while. I'd really like to go back, but it's honestly like it's really difficult for me to make money there. Like I have a lot some people like tap in, they get looped into something
right.
and
Yeah.
they just like are like that's like the money train for them. It's like, oh, I go to Europe once a year and like make all my
Hmm.
money. And I'm like, it's never been like that for me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like been really hard to make it work. And I love it. I like love traveling there and I love like just getting to be immersed in different cultures and meet different people and so I'd really like love to go back, but I don't have plans to right now because it's just like it just doesn't seem like financially
Right.
viable.
Yeah, I totally get that. There's like very specific circuits in Europe. There, like the country circuit or the punk rock circuit or the Americana circuit. If you're not like really right in one of those,
Yeah,
it's very difficult. I've always been in between genres over there, and it's we can go and have decent
yeah,
runs, but it's not like a big cash cow.
right,
Um,
totally.
so shit, what was I gonna? Oh, did you ever get really far east? You ever get to like Romania or any kind of more tripped out places?
I toured in Russia in 2011, which was like we did like 2 weeks there, and it was I mean that was really interesting. It was so different, um, and not something that I'll ever do again. Doesn't look like. So it
Mhm.
was cool. It was cool to get to go then, but it was definitely like one of the like roughest kind of tours I've ever done, and we were like sleeping on trains a lot, and it was just like it was really intense, honestly, but it was also a really like cool experience, and yeah, I'm glad I got to go.
How did that come about?
It was just a fan. Like there was just like this one fan that like really wanted me to come, and was like I'll put a bunch of shows together, and like I'll make sure you get paid this much. And I was
Hmm.
like, all right, like if you can. And the shows were small, but they were like they were small, but I mean, what would you expect? Going going to, I mean, I don't have a lot of fans in Russia, so it was like it was cool. We got to play to people, and
I bet.
yeah, so it was it was really interesting, and
That's
the food
fascinating.
was the hardest part for me about it.
Yeah, what's the food like?
Cold, a lot of cold food.
Yeah.
I'm
Surprises me.
I'm
It's
mostly vegetarian, and so it was just like really difficult to eat. Like, here I got it pretty dialed. We're going to Whole Foods like for
mhm.
lunches. Like I'm like a very vegetable forward eater, and I like in Russia that there's not green stuff. Like you'll maybe find a tomato, and like like you're eating like bread and cheese a lot
Yeah, that's
basically.
tough.
And yeah, it was like kind of hard, that part. Yeah. And
I
like
mean, the American highways hate vegetables just as
I
much. You can't
know
you can't get a
it's
vegetable in America unless you're driving deep into the burbs.
it's totally true. And I know that's actually funny because when you go to Europe, it's actually like, I mean, the more Western Europe, like it's kind of great. They've got those really delicious sandwiches everywhere you go, and they kind of like, I
Love
feel like the food
those.
is way better,
Isn't it
like at
great
all
to
the
just
rest
be able to get a
stops.
little snack, like a little bakery sandwich? It's like €2.
Oh, I know.
Anytime you
Oof.
eat in the States, it's like a $21 commitment and a giant greasy feast. I love the corner bakeries. Basically
Yeah.
every country in Europe's got them, and you can eat for nothing. It's quite
Yeah.
incredible.
I know. And just their like rest stops. I mean, it sucks that you have to pay for the bathrooms,
That sucks, yeah.
but on the plus side, they have like really good food that's like made there and not like shipped in from like Kansas in like a plastic bag or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
I
So
don't know.
those of
Yeah.
you out there who have not peed in Europe, if you stop at a petrol station, you pay, I think, what is it, 50 cent or a euro for a ticket, and then you put it through the turnstile. It gives you 50-cent voucher back to spend at the gas station. So there's this whole like
Yeah.
underground trucker movement of guys who don't want to pay to pee. So, and I guess me too, like I'll go in the woods and pee if there's like woods nearby, but then when you go into the woods, you see all kinds of crazy stuff and use toilet paper. It's like those truckers ain't paying 50 cents to go pee pee,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I know it's kind of like a scam, but I mean, I get it too. Whatever.
it's
It
worth
is what
having
it
clean
is.
bathrooms. I mean, remember America, like even 5 years ago, before Quick Trip and Love's and all these nice places kind of upgraded and had these great like petrol station
Mm,
chains. I mean, I remember like Super America, like Speedways are still pretty rough. It's like you get the key to the outside toilet and it's horrendous and there's flies everywhere and it's scary. So I love
yeah.
America's making big strides in their petrol station comfort.
Yeah, I'm still like, I mean, for me, honestly, like the fact, like I'm always seeking out like Starbucks because they have gender neutral bathrooms, which isn't a thing that like most people think about. But like using the like ladies' room in like the middle of Kansas is like not an awesome experience for me. And like that's like a thing on the road that's just like really hard, actually.
The
Like
people just
I'm
giving you the
comf
eye and stuff.
it's just the most awkward thing in the world. Like, yeah, like people stare, people are like, people have actually been like scared. They like think a man is in the restroom. Like, it's just like, it really sucks, honestly. And so, yeah, gender neutral bathrooms are like, they're really important to my road
Mhm.
experience. Like, I just want to go to Starbucks and like go in the single stall. Like, yeah, it's not fun. That part of it, that's like a thing that most people don't think about, but it's like a
Sure.
daily thing for me.
Kansas, a bit of a flyover state. And yes, Starbucks has killer bathrooms, so
Yeah, not to like, I mean,
big
I feel
ups to
like I've now like
Starbies.
I've sort of like called out Kansas in a bad way, and there's no like hating on Kansas. It's just kind of I'm using that as a generic term for like kind of middle America and yeah, middle America and their gendered bathrooms are not awesome.
I've had some great shows in Kansas. I've had some proper soul crushers. One time we stayed in like a this like crackhead's house after a show at a bowling alley, and they were like so pumped to host us. They were like, "Yeah, come stay at our house. It's gonna be incredible." And we get there, and it's like his roommates had just gotten out of this big prison, like Leavenworth maximum security prison, and there's bongs everywhere, and you couldn't even see the floor because there was just trash, just
Yeah, man.
garbage. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't need to go much further, but we basically had to like chow a bunch of melatonin just so we could sleep, and then the inmates were like playing Super Mario Kart over our heads, like the controller cords were like draped over our heads,
Oh my
so we're
God.
like on the floor.
Oh
Super nice
no.
guys, very nice
No,
guys, but yeah,
no.
pretty
That's
scary.
like that's no.
Comedy
That's
gold.
like a thing that you can tolerate in your 20s. I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're older than that.
Yeah, that was
And
10 years ago. Yeah.
that's like you just have to stop doing that stuff. Like after a while, you know, that's you can't can't do that. Oh
I
boy.
used to be pumped up to like wake up at a punk squat in Kansas City. I was like, "Yay, look, I'm in a new place. I'm living the dream." And I'm like,
Yeah.
my pillow is like a, you know, rag,
Yeah.
you
Like a
know.
wet
So,
towel.
oh, yeah, and I'm like covering up like a stain on the floor with a
Oh
pizza box so I
man.
don't have to touch it with my back. And I would
Yeah,
wake up pretty
it's so
chipper,
bad.
you know,
Yeah.
even after a few bush lights or whatever. It was you're just riding off the novelty of it all. So I just feel yeah, I mean that works for a bit, and then you got to switch it up. You can only ride the novelty lightning for so long before it's time for a good old switcheroo.
Oh man. Yeah, that was never something that appealed to me much, was like staying like the couch surfing part of it. I kind of like, you know, I dabbled in that a little in my earlier years, but in general, like it's also like honestly, like I mean, there's a gender thing here where like as like a female-bodied person in the world, like I'm not like feeling super safe just going to strangers' houses, and I like I mostly like kind of avoided that.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but it happens. And there were like obviously there's been some really awesome people over the years that have like just like opened up their homes, and that's just like that's honestly like rad. And sometimes you meet like really cool people that way, and I'm definitely like really grateful to people that have offered that.
Have you had to learn any like street karate or self-defense moves?
Um, no, but like, you know, my mom's always given me like the mace or like here's this like device that like sets an alarm off or something
Mhm.
like yeah, no, no.
Yeah, I've never had much street fighting skills, but I have a Louisville Slugger under my bed from the 1950s, so that's my my best self-defense.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah, pepper spray.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had pepper spray. I've it's yeah, it's it's crazy. But I heard if you to become a cop, you have to get tasered. It's like part of the initiation. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what a friend told me who's becoming a cop. So, and I remember like playing a
What?
show and like, yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
what
you
did
know,
you just say?
yeah, yeah. If you're a cop, you it's like part of the initiation to get tasered if you ever want to like be able to use a taser.
Do you mean
So,
like initiation like hazing, or do you mean initiation like
well, I
job
guess it is
description like
both. I mean,
requirement?
it technically is hazing, but yeah, it's like you if you're gonna tase people, like you have to get tased. I swear that's true. I mean,
Hmm.
don't quote me. Call in
I
if you
don't,
know. I
yeah, I
remember
don't,
playing in Asia, or I forget where it was. Maybe it was Mexico, but there was like a street market, huge street market, and one guy, like, there's a fruit, vegetables, hand rolled cigarettes that a 6-year-old is, selling packs of cigarettes. And then there's a taser guy. There's just a guy who has a taser stand, and he had like
well,
a whole table full of tasers of all the varieties, and they were like $30. I was like, that seems like a good deal for a taser. So
yeah, that's wild. No,
anyway,
that,
I don't know
yeah,
why I'm talking about this, but it's fun.
wow,
Have you ever played in South America?
no, I haven't. Um, I've never played in Mexico.
Asia?
No, I technically played in Australia because I studied abroad there and I did a couple shows, but that was like in college, so
Yeah, sure.
I don't even know if it counts. But I mean, whatever. I was on the radio, the student radio and stuff, and did some stuff there. But no, I've never even really been to Asia. Um,
I lived there for 2 years. It was bizarro, but awesome. It was
you lived
amazing.
there. Where did you
Yeah.
live?
I lived in Vietnam for 2 years. In
Wow,
Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah, it was
that's
trippy.
wild.
We did our best as a band. Like we tried to get out. We played some cool festivals, and but it's
That
indie
sounds
rock
cool.
is pretty limited there
Yeah,
especially 10 years ago. So it was time to move on, but a great, moment in life. It's fun. It's fun
yeah,
to stay. I get a lot of energy from going to places that are completely the opposite of where I live, and just, kind of getting your brain turned upside down by the speed of other cultures, and how people do things, and witnessing how happy people are with way less. I mean, we've all
yeah,
had that chat before, like minimalism and community seems to just go such a long way, especially in Asia. You know how it is in Europe. It's like you get off time. You email the label guy, like half the time you get an autoresponder being like, "Hey, hello, I am on vacation. I'll see you next time." They take a lot of holiday, a lot of community. So I don't know.
yeah,
We talk about mental health on the pod sometimes, and just America's it seems in a bit of a mental health crisis, but hopefully we can turn it around. I don't know. We don't need to get into a whole AI social media rabbit hole.
yeah. There's a lot of big changes happening. It's true.
Yeah. You still think people are going to be into humans making songs in 10 years?
I don't know about the making songs part, honestly, but one thing that I feel like the one job security part that we do have is that robots aren't going to be playing live shows. So I'm kind of like, well,
I'd like to think
we
you're
at
right,
least
Chris.
at least probably for the next 10 years or for
Maybe
my
10.
lifetime.
Yeah, we might have 10.
I'm
I mean,
thinking in my lifetime, hopefully we're not seeing robots playing our shows for us. But I mean, I think that part, and that's a really cool thing to highlight since this is about touring. But I think yeah, like AI might be writing a lot of songs and scoring a lot of movies and writing all the jingles, and yeah, that part is hard. Like the money is going to be leaving those sectors, but I feel like the touring thing is still that's it's still like you're in a room with real humans sharing an experience, and that's like something that I don't think that'll ever really change. Like people wanting to be in community and be in space and share space
yeah.
and share music together.
There will always be people for that. It might be the minority of the Earth's population, but yes, I think you're right. I think that will always be a need that human beings who, I don't know, want to make strides to feel better will do. We can wind it down here, Chris, but what is like move, you've been doing this like 22 years. What is kind of, if you look back at all your touring, all your music, releasing records, what has like moved the needle most for you as far as your career goes? Like, what would be a useful piece of information to young artists, not even just musicians?
I mean, I'm just the slow and steady, you know. Like I don't have like that big moment where like a thing happened and changed everything. I think that it's like a lot of little opportunities that add up over time. Like just getting open for this person, getting open for that person, and like just kind of sticking with it. And like I can't think of like any one thing that was like, wow, that really like shifted everything for me. Um, it's just been kind of like sticking with it.
Yeah, just keeping your head down, keep trucking.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
awesome, Chris.
yeah.
Anything you want to steer the people to at the moment, artistically, music, projects, tours?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be touring all fall. I don't know when this is gonna air, but I'll be hitting the Northeast, the Midwest, some Southeast stuff, and then in November I've got the Mountain West and West Coast stuff, and going out as a trio with a electric guitar player and a violin player, lots of harmonies, and I'm really excited for these arrangements and like this tour. So
Brilliant. Well, it's
got
great
that.
talking to you, Chris. I really like what you're doing and massive
Thanks.
respect.
Thanks, man.
It's great to see. It's inspiring to me that other people are out there still trucking, and it makes me feel like we've got a chance out there.
Yeah, right on. Thanks.
I'll see you
Cheers.
in real life at some point soon.
I hope so. Yeah, yeah. Good luck with your touring as well.
Thanks, Chris. Chris Pureka,
Yeah,
Dirt from the Road. See you down the line.
thanks. Bye then.
That was tremendous.